Turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. Has anyone ever experienced wall changing colors? By lunekko. Hi guys. Something weird happened this weekend, and I want to know if anyone has a similar stories. Couldn't find anything searching the sub. My boyfriend's family have this house on this countryside where me and my boyfriend like to go spend the weekend like every 2 or 3 months. Ever since the first time I went to this house, my boyfriend's room had its wall painted like green. Although the shade of green is pretty light, it's dark enough so you can distinguish it from other colors, especially white. Last month I went to this house again, and the walls on his room were now fully white. I instantly realized it was looking different and said to my boyfriend that his room looked way better that way with the white walls. My boyfriend looked at me like I was crazy and said, "What are you talking about? They've always been this color." I'm already used to him not paying attention to anything. He has severe ADHD, so it's not weird that he never noticed before. So I said that his room was green before. He denied, and then I showed him on my phone a picture of him inside the room with green walls. He laughed about his lack of attention to the world around him, and that was that. We spent the whole weekend there, and during that time, we slept in his room, now with the white walls. Now, last weekend, his parents held an event there, and I go there early to help with the preparations. As soon as I entered his room, the walls were painted light green again. I asked him if his father asked someone to paint the walls again, and one more time, he said his walls had always been that color. I said that the last time I was there, the walls were painted white, but maybe his dad painted them white and painted them green again. He assured me that those walls were not painted again in a long time because he could still see stains that had always been there. It's true, I could see the old stains and marks too. I then mentioned that we already had this exact same conversation last time I was there, but with the white walls, and he remembered it right away. I said that maybe his dad changed the light bulb, but he was 100% sure that no one did such a thing. Although my boyfriend's memory is not that reliable, I do believe no one painted the walls again or changed the light bulbs. Even if someone did, last month I could still see the room white with only the sunlight that came in from the windows. And there were indeed very old stains in the wall, things like marks where the bed used to touch the wall and little dots from killed insects. My boyfriend didn't care that much about the occurrence. He said it was weird and moved on. I saw many stories here about objects going missing, but never came across something like this. Has anyone here ever experienced a similar event? After my abusive grandpa died, I went to my grandma's house in the Bay Area to help clear away his stuff. He still had control over her because when I went into his old truck and found a handgun and a bunch of zodiac symbols, she turned pale and said we weren't allowed to discuss it. The Glitching Tattoo That Went for a Walkabout by Anonymoose. My forearm has a line of individual symbols that represent a specific time in my life with people I was once very close to. We all are still friends, but you know how life can get in the way of frequent hangouts as we get older. And I just realized the tattoo turns 10 in July, if that matters. Each of these symbols are plain black lines, nothing fancy. Think the long idea of a simple heart, square, circle kind of deal. There are more than 3 though. Each had the symbol that represented ourselves colored in, and kept it very simple by going in order of age. The oldest has the first mark colored in, next oldest has the second, third has the third, and so on. Our group had a wide age range, the oldest being 7 years senior to the next in line, the closest gap being 5 years apart. It's not like we were talking about a few months or a handful of years apart. I'm pretty darn confident on my own age and where I am in the lineup. I'm not deep in the middle child zone either. The one that represented me, the only colored one, had changed location. So obviously, I made a few calls. No one else had noticed a change on theirs, sent out a picture of mine. The person I swapped with reports their color ink faded out within the last few years. They only had the black lines. Cue the confusion amongst the group. It's agreed that this would have been noticed the day we all got them, or at some point over the last decade. My friends are not as open to this sort of subject, so it's just been left as how weird we never realized. This would not be my first glitch, nor will it be the first time I rather believe my memory is slipping. However, just like the glitch that got me believing, it feels like I have witnesses. Why are they just as confused if it was only my memory? And that's what brings me here to share. At 1 second past midnight, with the streets and pharmacies so overcrowded with people, the new wonder drug that would let you recall any memory since birth, the pill called Forget It Not, was released. At 5 minutes past midnight, the suicide prevention telephone service crashed due to exceeding massive call volume. Lost AirPods found after 2 years by IrrelevantTrash. I lost my AirPods about 2 years ago, just the individual buds, both of them, but I still kept the case hoping I might find the earbuds again. This was in early 2022 and it's now 2024, but I still hadn't found them, so I was thinking about selling or throwing out the case. Just yesterday, I was laying in bed, but I felt something cold on my foot. So I looked down, and there is the left earbud. Then I'm super confused at this point because it's been 2 years and I never found it. It wasn't lodged in the bed or anything, and I constantly changed my sheets. I looked around for the right earbud, but it was also right at my foot. Just to make sure they were mine and not some random AirPods. Never bought any since I lost them. I put it into my case from 2 years ago, and it was the correct pair belonging to that case. What's weirder is the case and the left earpods are almost dead, but the right AirPod was mostly charged after 2 years. I'm so confused. But everyone around me didn't really think much of it. Maybe I'm overreacting? Edit. I don't have roommates. I never let anyone borrow them, and I would know if they were stolen. They were not between my mattresses. They were not stuck between my toes for 2 years. But hey, they work. Indefinite AirPod glitch? Edit 2. I wish I could attach images, but somehow I can't. But just to clear up some suspicions, they are not caught up in my sheets, a fitted cover, or any bed sheet / pillowcase. The Find My Phone app also said that my AirPods had no location when I checked them the day before yesterday. The second I found them before reconnecting the AirPods to my phone. Edit number 3. Last edit, because I'm finding this a bit tiring to reply to multiple comments, but no. My mother did not steal the AirPods for 2 years, then order some Chinese knockoffs as a cover out of spite. This sounds very ridiculous, and that is not the case, as the second the AirPods are connected to the internet, my phone would have notified me as I keep pressing the Ring My AirPods function in my Find My Phone. There are no holes in my mattress, comforter, blanket, duvet, covers, sheets, pillows, pillowcases, you get it. I also do not own any pets and never let anyone borrow them outside the house. After an accident that killed my family and left me with amnesia, they gave me an old photo album and told me who I was. I think the accident damaged my eyes. It looks like all the people in the photos have the wrong number of fingers. Okay, this is too many too close together. By Almost-Jaded. This is my third post here in 3 weeks. My previous significant glitches have been years apart. Made an Uber Eats drop last night, not to the same area where I had the dimensional switch, but that's not relevant to this. For the record, I drive for Eats and very intentionally not for the passenger service. Less money, but a lot less frustration and BS. Not to mention a lot less time spending at the airport and the Strip. 2 places that Vegas locals never go to if we can help it. I have never made a single people ride, not one, ever. But I could. I'm approved for passenger service. I just never log into it. So I pull up to the driveway and walk up to the door with the food. Lady answers, immediately a big smile. You gave me a ride from the airport once. I explained that she's probably confused me with another driver. I don't make passenger runs. She proceeds to recount a conversation that could only have been with me. She tips me $10 cash, very high for Eats, and explains that she felt bad for not tipping me before, but she was out of cash at the time, and it was before Uber added online tips. The lady was positive I had given her an Uber ride from the airport months ago. Uber added online tips last August, and recounted a conversation with details that wouldn't apply to somebody else. I've never seen her before in my life, and I never made an Uber airport passenger run or any Uber passenger run in almost 8 months of driving for them. I did take the tip though. Edit. I'll respond here, but since my latest discovery of Allah, I'm literally not where I should be, see my newest post, this experience doesn't even rank in my brain as being noteworthy. Put another way, I now have a bigger fish to fry. I did, however, log into Uber and check my past rides. There's no records of me ever having had a passenger run. Since I'm reading the stories in the order that they came out originally, the story he's referring to is in the last Glitch in the Matrix story video if you wish to check it out. I don't care who I have to kill, I'll make them regret this, I thought as I rushed my way to the top of this prison. The SeaWorld trainer didn't even have time to react before I had her arm and thrashed her about these waters. Toilet Paper Appearing by wenchitywrench. This is about as random as it gets, and I apologize for too much information level, but I'll keep it polite. I was about to take a shower and decided to pee while waiting for the water to get warm, sat down, did so, collected my toilet paper in a good old-fashioned roll and scrunch technique, cleared the field, so to speak, and then stood up to toss the toilet paper in the toilet, and as I turned around, I see a very neatly folded section of toilet paper just sitting on the left side of the toilet seat, towards the middle where I still would have been touching if I had sat back down. And it definitely would have stuck to me when I stood up. It looked to be like 4 or 5 squares neatly folded and flat, just sitting there, clean and undisturbed. I was stunned, and this actually was the 3rd or 4th time that this has ever happened to me in my life, but the first time I couldn't write it off. The other times didn't make sense either, but I had clothes on at the time and was like, maybe I had toilet paper stuck to me for some reason, or maybe it was on the upper side of the lid of the toilet and it fell and I just didn't notice it. Nothing really seemed plausible at the time, but I couldn't count those things out and it freaked me out, so I just made myself shrug it off. Thought I was being a bit paranoid about things sticking to my clothes, unbeknownst to me for a bit. But in this recent scenario, I was in my birthday suit, so there was nothing to cling to or to get stuck on. And I was about to hop in the shower, and the lid was up before I sat down. I had even taken a peek to see how clean everything was because I was making a mental chore list for the day. Not the sexiest glitch, but still very much what the fuck for me. Anyone else ever experienced this? I have zero clue what or why or how. Obligatory edit to include that all my carbon monoxide detectors are functioning normally. I was pissed that my daughter had her phone set to Do Not Disturb again, 2 hours past her curfew, so I used the location tracker to find her myself. Now, I'm staying in an empty alley next to a dumpster where the location tracker has pinged her phone, and I'm honestly too terrified to open the lid and look inside. Mysterious Stalker by Handshot First 5445. I want to start by saying I consider myself a very observant person. I'm horrible with names, but I remember a face. This is what makes me confident enough to share this story. My wife and I went to Louisiana for her best friend's wedding. It was a long trip from where we lived in upper Midwest, but it was worth it. Her friend's family made us feel so welcome, like we were honestly part of their family. We did the normal wedding stuff, rehearsals and other things, but we also just hung out in general. After the rehearsal, the wedding party and both the bride and groom's families went to eat at this Mexican restaurant. This was a massive party though, so my social battery was dying real quickly. I told my wife I needed to use the bathroom, which I genuinely did, but I also needed an excuse to get a quick recharge. Now, this is where it gets unsettling. I did my business and I started washing my hands. That's when this man walked in. I'll never forget how he looked. He was a heavy-set Caucasian dude. He had a close-cropped beard and wore an extremely loud and almost ridiculous cowboy outfit. He came in smiling at me and washing his hands. We exchanged greetings like usual, and then he complimented my shirt. It was a Spider-Man No Way Home shirt. I thanked him, and then he said he loved superheroes too, and that he had a full collection of Christopher Reeve's Superman films at his house. I thought it was a normal thing to boast, but then it hit me that out of all the superhero movies he could have chose, he picked my favorite, Superman. I brushed it off as coincidence and said goodbye. We both walked out, him behind me. As I was walking back to my seat, I suddenly heard the same dude, clear as day, say my name out loud. I spun around since he was right behind me, and he was gone. I looked around and he was nowhere to be seen. It genuinely freaked me out because I never even mentioned my name to him, and it was almost impossible for him to leave the restaurant that quickly. I told my wife, and she chalked it up to coincidence. The rest of the wedding planning went well, but then the reception came around. I was having an absolute blast, not drinking a thing, mind you. I'm underage at the time. When I spot this dude, bald everywhere besides his eyebrows, smiling at me, I stared at him back and considered my last experience. I started making my way towards him. I made it to where he was, and he was gone. I looked everywhere around the party. I counted for every face, and nobody matched. I had chills for a while before trying to shake it off and enjoy the party. Fast forward 3 months later, my wife and I have moved down south to Carolina. We were looking for a place since we were staying with my parents, so we checked out a town that some friends were living at. The town is about 3 hours from my parents. While out eating with them, I went to the bathroom again. As soon as I was done in the stall, I turned the corner of the stall to the sink and almost ran into someone. I looked up, and it was the same man from Louisiana. He wasn't wearing the cowboy outfit, nor did he speak. He just smiled at me, and it wasn't a genuine smile. He smiled only in his mouth. The rest of his face wasn't smiling. I stood shocked and looked at this other dude in there. That's when I realized the other stall was open. He didn't need to wait for my stall. The guy just walked into the stall, still smiling at me. I went back to my seat and told my wife, in which she got the chills. Our seat was in front of the bathroom, so I watched intently to see if he would come out so I can show her. He never did. I rushed back into the bathroom to see if he was still in there, and the stall was empty. I'm still freaked out by this. It seems almost impossible for someone to follow us that much, literally across states. I'll update this further if anything develops. I don't know who is following me, or if they have good intentions or not. Update. Just had an experience in a bathroom. I went to a stall in a restaurant. While I was going, I hear someone come in. I leave the stall and see them standing in the handicapped stall behind the partition wall. The door to the stall was open, and they were facing the partition wall, not going. They stayed that way until I left the bathroom, just staying there not moving. I never saw their face, just their shoes. Brown leather work boots. Nobody else was in the bathroom. I knew that my gambling debts were now insurmountable, so with deep regrets, I wrote a suicide note and loaded my pistol. My wife's insurance payout should net me just enough to buy into a game where I can win it all back, and I'm betting that the cops won't be able to prove it was me. And with that, our time together is coming to an end. First of all, if you have a story you'd like me to narrate, you can send it to me 3 different ways, either through email, my website, or my subreddit. I also like to thank my patrons and members for your support to this channel. You guys help keep the lights on around here, and I really appreciate you guys. Last but never least, I'd like to thank the people who let me read their stories this evening. All of these were, of course, very interesting. I always enjoy Glitch in the Matrix stories. They are some of the more interesting stories I get to read that are true, and you know that the person wasn't actually in too much danger. I hope you all don't lose any more things don't move on your body, and you stay in the dimension that you belong to. Thank you guys so much. Now, if you enjoyed these stories, please hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, please subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications so you don't miss an upload. And of course, I would love a comment. Tell me what you thought of these stories, which one was your favorite, and if you maybe have some advice for the people who let me read them. And if you're on Spotify, there are questions that you can answer, or you can use that area to leave comments if you like. And of course, if you'd like to help this podcast/YouTube channel grow, sharing with anyone who might enjoy it helps quite a bit. If you'd like to help this podcast in a more financial way, I do have Patreon and memberships like I mentioned before, as well as PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, and Super Thanks on YouTube. None of this will ever be expected, but always appreciated. As always, I just truly enjoy reading stories and knowing you guys enjoy what I bring out for you guys. So, thank you so much for watching and listening. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.